Welcome to Wheelock's Latin, Chapter 18. In this chapter, we're learning about the passive voice. First, let's look at the active voice. In the active voice, the subject does the action of the verb. So in the sample sentence, he warns Caesar, the subject, he, is doing the action of the verb warning. There's a special case for the verb is, which expresses a state of being. Some grammarians will call this an active verb, and some will call this a stative verb because it expresses a state of being. So in the sample sentence, Caesar is great, it's a little hard to think about it as Caesar doing the action of the verb because the verb doesn't have an action. This is why some people call it a stative verb instead of an active verb. You can either call it active or stative. What we want to look at today is the passive voice, where the subject receives the action of the verb. So in our sample sentence, Caesar is being warned. The subject is Caesar, and the verb in English has three parts, is being warned. You can even cross out being and have a similar sense, Caesar is warned. The first one is the present continuous in English, and the second one is the simple present. In Latin, there's only one present, which you use to express continuous or simple action. If you want to compare Caesar is great to Caesar is warned and understand why one is stative and the other is passive, notice that in Caesar is great, the main verb is, and great is a simple adjective telling you more about Caesar. In the second example, Caesar is warned, the main verb is, and warned is a verbal adjective, specifically the perfect passive participle. It has verbal qualities. So is warned together expresses a passive verb. In Latin, let's look at the same examples. So he warns Caesar, Caesarem admonet, where Caesarem is accusative object. Caesar is great, Caesar magnus est, where Caesar and magnus both have to be nominative because one is the subject and one is the predicate. And then finally, in the passive voice, Caesar admonetur. Notice that in English it's a two-part verb, is warned, but in Latin you express that with just a single word. So you do not translate is from the English into something into the Latin. It's just Caesar admonetur. So now let's look at the forms of these verbs. We have 6 tenses, and active and passive. We've learned we call the first 3 tenses, present, future, and imperfect, the present system. And in the present active system, you take the present stem plus the active endings. In the perfect, future perfect, and pluperfect, we call this the perfect system. They're all formed by taking the perfect stem plus the endings. For the passive voice, we're looking today only at the present, future, and imperfect because you form the present system passive voice by taking the present stem plus passive endings. We'll save the perfect passive system for another chapter because it's formed in a completely different way. So today, passive voice, present system only, further limiting it to just the first and second conjugation, and that is simply because the first and second conjugations formed their future with bo bis bit and their imperfect with bom bas bat, as opposed to the third and fourth conjugations which form them in a different way. So the passive voice will actually be an easy change. It's simply that the forms we already know are slightly different in the first, second versus the third, fourth. So let's look at first and second conjugation, present passive system. So here is our chart. We'll put in the present stem, and then we'll add new passive endings. So lauda, the A disappears and you get laudor, but the A sticks around for the rest of them. Laudaris, laudator, laudamor, laudamini, laudantur. The A is going to become short in the last one, laudantur, because it's followed by this double consonant. If you're interested in grammar, the double consonant makes the syllable long already, so it's redundant to put a long mark over the vowel. In the imperfect, we'll take the present stem, lauda, plus the ba that marks the imperfect that we already know, and then instead of adding the active endings, bam, ba, spat, bamas, bata, spat, we'll add the passive endings, bar, baris, batur, bamor, bamini, bantur. Again, the A in the first singular and third plural is short. For the future, lauda plus not quite bo, bi, 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 bo, because the second singular changes to be. But after that, you add the ris, tur, mer, mini, ntor that we've learned from the present and the imperfect. In the second conjugation, we'll do a similar thing. So we get moneor, moneris, monetor, monemor, monemini, monentor. Notice the E's in the first singular and the third plural are short. Then in the imperfect, mone bar, mone baris, mone bator, mone bamor, mone bamini, mone bantor, and the future, mone bor, baris, bitor, bimor, bimini, buntor. So last up in this chapter, let's look at the ablative of agent, which is going to appear with some passive verbs. So in my sample sentence, di Caesarum admonent, I have an active verb, the gods, subject, warn, active verb, Caesar, direct object, accusative in Latin. If you want to make that passive, Caesar admonentor, Caesar, subject, passive verb is being warned, or you could just say is warned. If you want to say who is warning Caesar, you have to add in a prepositional phrase, by the gods. Caesar is being warned by the gods. This is a prepositional phrase in both English and Latin, and in Latin you use the preposition a or ab. Same word, you just drop the consonant b if the next word begins in a consonant. So a dis is being warned by the gods. Dis must be in the ablative after a or ab, and we call it the ablative of agent. If Caesar is being warned by a thing and not a person, you do not use the preposition. So Caesar is warned by these omens. His prodigiis in Latin has no preposition because it's a thing. And instead of calling this the ablative of agent, when it's a thing, we call it the ablative of means. So in sum, agents are only used for people, and you must use the preposition a if the next word starts with a consonant, or ab if the next word starts with a vowel. For ablative of means, that is used with things, and you do not use a preposition. The end.